Hey everyone, it's Kai from Kool Collectibles back again for another review. This time it's the Hot Toys MMS279 Darth Vader from A New Hope, and that is the figure on the right there. Now I did film a previous review that I was going to post, doing my normal style with the box art and the accessories, etc. But as I was messing around with the figures, I found that the elbow on the Sideshow figure here, the elbow, one of the joints in the elbow was stuck, and so I couldn't bend it past 90 degrees, and so that annoyed the crap out of me. So I eventually ended up stripping this figure to try and access the elbow joint, and once I got access to it, I was able to put a lot of force on it and eventually break it free from whatever was holding the second joint in place, and so now I can bend it past that 90 degrees, which affects or helps the articulation a lot. So I might actually end up doing that on some of my other Sideshow figures, but particularly some figures which have stuck knees, because once you do loosen the joints, they're still firm, as you can see, and it's not broken, but the joint eventually has the full range of articulation that it should have. So once I did that for the Sideshow figure, that gave me the confidence that I could strip down a figure without breaking anything, and essentially that's what you need to do for the Vader figure. So the instructions that it comes with, pretty much you have to read this set of instructions. It goes through the whole process of stripping down the figure to access the bloody battery compartment. So I'll go through that in a second and show you that, but I stripped it down essentially to try and have a comparison between all the components of the Sideshow and all the components of the Vader, the Hot Toys, because there are some design elements of the Sideshow that I prefer and some of the Hot Toys that I prefer, so I thought it'd be good for me to just go through that with you. But I will go through the accessories that comes with a Hot Toys figure just quickly, so just bear with me. Alright, so as with all the other New Hope figures, it does come with this sort of great design for the base and the metallic plaque there with Darth Vader on the front, so that's pretty nice. And it does come with the Interrogator Droid that does have its own stand in there that's similar to the Sand Trooper. You can place on here. Now I think the Sand Trooper base actually had a hole where you could insert the little droid into the back of the stand, and that was okay because the Sand Trooper was a smaller figure and everything could sort of fit on this base, but they provided this additional base because there's just no room with Vader on this, and it just so happens that it's definitely an afterthought. If I just take it out, this is the original base, which I guess doesn't provide a lot of stability. It's too small, and so they provided this thing, which is probably the cheapest thing that Hot Toys has ever made. I actually almost missed this in the box because it was taped to the bottom of the clamshell and is pretty much the same material as that clamshell. So I guess I think after production, and they were probably testing and for QC and so on for all of their accessories, they probably realized that this was just not stable enough and quickly cobbled this together and just added it to the box late in the game. So definitely disappointing with this quality, but I guess once you sort of put it in here, it does increase the stability quite a bit. But the probe droid itself is pretty nice. The nice sort of glossy black paint is fairly well done. Now all of these extensions and accessories are separate in the box, and so you have to sort of find the particular slots to put them in, and you do have to be pretty damn careful and have a bit of patience in doing it and not snap anything off. This one in particular was a bit hard to find. The instructions sort of just have a general arrow in that direction, so it took me a while to figure out that the actual little slot for it was within this bigger dome thing. The other one that's a pain in the ass to put in is the syringe. There is a little notch in the circular bit here that allows it to sit in a little bit better, but you do have to put quite a bit of force to sort of try and get it in there without it popping out all the time. The other ones aren't so bad, but overall the look, the paint app, and the detail on this is pretty nice, so I can't complain about that too much. The next accessory is the light up arm with the light up LED in the lightsaber. I hardly ever use these. I actually hate electronic features on my figures, and the Obi-Wan and Luke figures I haven't even bothered connecting the arms. I have heard the Obi-Wan and Luke figures are easier to connect because the peg here is much longer, and the Vader here is a bit of a pain in the ass. I'm not even going to bother trying, but I do check the electronics, I guess, just once to see if they work. I have installed the batteries, and the light up feature is there, and it is actually pretty bright, depending on the sort of angle. If you don't have this on and you sort of make the mistake of looking in there, it is quite bright, so I'm probably just to be a bit careful on that. But overall, I mean, it's a nice feature to have for the odd photo opportunity, but I would never leave this arm in for any length of time. So I just use the standard arm and the standard lightsaber. So here is the standard lightsaber, and this blade is removable, so you just sort of unpeg it and put it onto the other lightsaber for the light up feature. But again, as with all the other Hot Toys lightsabers, the blade and the hilt are very nicely done. So the hilt here, now I guess this is A New Hope, and I'm assuming I've got no idea on movie accuracy, so if I'll have to apologize tongue-in-cheek to all the anal collectors out there who might get out their micrometers and double check everything, but for me, just off the face of it, it does look pretty good. Now this Sideshow version here, from I guess Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back, you can tell the obvious difference here with even the hilt is slightly different. Now I have a Force Effects removable blade lightsaber for Darth Vader, and I thought it was from A New Hope, and it does look like this with the silver part there, so I'm assuming this is fairly accurate. But for this one, I'm not sure about the hilt from Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Not sure why he would bother making another one, but I have seen other movie replicas that look more like this, so I guess the Sideshow version may also be accurate. But as you can see, the sort of silver paint application, for some reason the Hot Toys versions always look more realistic and smooth, whereas the Sideshow versions always have this sort of weird glistening to it that just doesn't look as refined. So I do prefer the Hot Toys version in this particular case. And also with the blade, the Hot Toys version sort of has a nice thin look that sort of gets thinner as you get to the tip, which looks pretty nice, whereas the Sideshow version is very much cylindrical all the way to the top. So I do prefer the Hot Toys version in this case. Now it also does come with a range of hands, and this is probably one aspect of the design that I do not like and prefer the Sideshow one, and we will have a closer look at that in a second as I go through each of the body components. So you'll see that the Hot Toys version has this bit of Velcro backing on the back of the hands, and the glove, which I'll just quickly grab here. So this is essentially the gauntlet, and there's the sort of other face of the Velcro, and you just sort of stick it on there like so, and you'll see it doesn't look too bad, and the material of the gauntlet is quite nice and very leather-like. So aesthetic wise it doesn't look too bad in material, but this seam here just annoys the crap out of me. And I'll just grab a hot Sideshow glove here just for a quick comparison. Anyway, I might as well do it now. You'll see the Sideshow version is this sort of fake plastic leather material, which probably doesn't look as nice, but I just prefer the way that seam looks as a whole glove. People have said that, you know, this provides extra articulation. I'm not quite sure how that's possible. You know, all the Sideshow versions have the little peg inside, and so you can rotate this around and slightly have a bit of up and down motion. So for my part, this Sideshow glove provides all the articulation I need. And I guess once you put this on the figure peg, you can really only rotate it at the wrist and have this sort of rotating around like so. So I think the overall look of this in this material on the gauntlet is nicer and feels nicer, but just as sort of one-off, one-piece glove, I do prefer the Sideshow. Alright, the other feature that I'll show off now is the sound effect of the figure. So you pretty much have to put batteries into this little remote control plaque where the W is the button, and you just flick the on switch like so. And on the body here, which I've stripped down. There is a switch here, so I haven't even bothered putting the battery cover back on. So you just flick the switch there and it should turn the sound on straight away. And the speaker is down there. Right, so the speaker's down there, and you pretty much just press the W button and it should light up on the remote control.
A tremor in the force. The last time I felt it was in the presence of my old master. Don't underestimate the force. I find your lack of faith disturbing. The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. Your powers are weak, old man. The force is strong with this one.
Alright, so overall, nice to have, but pretty damn useless on my part because I will never use that again. So I am going to take those batteries out. I've tried that, it works, and that's good enough for me. I'll probably give you guys a look at the light up features on the belt, just as a quick have a look at that in comparison to the Sideshow. But while we've got this body here, I guess one of the best things about being able to do this is just to get a better appreciation of the articulation in the body. So you'll see that the Hot Toys version is a very muscular body, and I think it's quite similar to some of their Arnold Schwarzenegger figures, or maybe even the Man of Steel. So you'll see, I mean, the shoulders here, have the full range of motion up. It's the usual sort of Hot Toys True Type body, with the bicep swivel there and the double jointed elbows. So overall, a pretty good range of motion, but I'll put the suit back on and give you guys a look at that in comparison to the Sideshow. Right, so now I've stripped down the Sideshow version as well, just to give you guys a look at the body there, and you'll see that the whole sort of shoulder area is quite different. There's a few gaps here, but that in a sense is really to help the articulation. So the shoulder structure has this nice sort of back and forth motion that the Hot Toys doesn't have, and it does have the full range of motion out to the side and to the front as well. So again, it was good for me to have a look at that just to appreciate the body. Now this was the joint up the top here that was stuck, so I could only bend it at the lower joint. And so essentially when I stripped it, I had to put a lot of force here just to crack it like this, and it eventually got loose from, I'm not sure what was, a sprue or something that was in there to hold it, but it moved past that point and now it's working fine. So what I wanted to do was to use that, and it needed that full range of articulation to have his hands essentially like this, where he's sort of resting his hands on his belt, and that's the pose I'm going to have for the Sideshow figure, and have the Hot Toys figure probably pose with Obi-Wan. So I wanted that ability, and it does need that elbow joint articulation. So I'll put him back together and give you guys a comparison against this suit against the Hot Toys. Alright, so here are the two suits side by side. Sorry for all the white backings if it's making that hard to see, but you'll see that the Hot Toys figure is shorter than the Sideshow figure. Now I just went by Google, and Darth Vader's official height is about 2.03 meters, so 203 centimeters. So you divide that by 6 for 1/6 scale and you get just under 34 centimeters. And I did have the Sideshow helmet and Hot Toys helmet on before, and definitely the both figures are oversized in that regard. But the Sideshow figure is definitely far taller than it probably needs to be. The Hot Toys figure is just over 34 centimeters, and the Sideshow figure was almost 36, I think. So definitely a lot taller, and probably a bit overscaled. But in displaying this with the other Sideshow bounty hunter figures, I don't think it looks that bad. So it probably scales okay with those particular figures. But on the body suit itself, you'll see that the Sideshow figure is this sort of pleather type material. Some people have complained about the material. I actually think the material feels and moves quite nice. The only issue is it's not fitted well enough to remove these sort of weird creases around his crotch, which is a bit of a shame. If they had somehow been able to pull it just a little bit tighter to maybe give it that look, it would have improved the overall aesthetic of it immensely, I think. But with the way it is and the way it can articulate, you know, if you just bend the leg slightly back, it doesn't look too bad. And it doesn't really restrict the articulation all that much. There is that play to it, which is probably why they made it just that little bit looser. Regarding the body and the arms, you know, some people have complained about how the arms look overly thin. For me, it's pretty much just the standard body. And I don't know if, you know, they could have improved it by making some of these figures with a bodysuit underneath or something like that to pad out the arms. But when you look at it like that, it doesn't look overly bad to me at all. So you know, particularly with his gloves on and so on, I don't think it's overly noticeable. So I don't actually mind it. And when I put everything back together, there are some sort of where he's just sort of standing there in his sort of museum pose. I actually prefer the sort of thin, more lean nature of his body, whereas the Hot Toys version, particularly once you put his vest on, which is a separate piece, he does start looking like a bit of a fat man, if you ask me. So, you know, I guess the purists out there might say that he does have that bit of extra girth in A New Hope and the original trilogy, but I guess it almost, to me, looks like he's packed on a few too many pounds. So, in terms of the body girth and so on, I actually do prefer the Sideshow. But the material of the suit, you'll see that the Hot Toys version is this sort of nice, it's not a sort of pleather-like material, it's almost like a vinyl type Michelin Man type suit. I'm not sure, I can't actually think of any other figure that I've got that it might compare to in this sort of material, but it doesn't restrict the articulation too much. It's got this sort of pleather-like material that it's sewed onto around the front and the back here, but overall it's not too bad. And just going by sort of photos in my Star Wars costume book and the making of Star Wars and so on books, the Hot Toys does look a lot more movie accurate in its sort of look and texture, whereas this sort of material in the Sideshow is just got those lines to sort of mimic that effect, as opposed to the Hot Toys that sort of actually does have that effect. So in terms of material and tailoring, I would say the Hot Toys is better, but it's not too bad on the Sideshow figure either. The Shin Guards, you'll see that I don't think the Shin Guards are removable on the Sideshow figure, and they do have that very glossy sort of plastic look to them. And then the boots, or I guess the boots are sort of one piece all the way up to here, and they do have that sort of matte finish. On the Hot Toys, sorry, the boots are very similar to the Han Solo boots. I'm not even sure, they might not be identical, but they do definitely exhibit the same bloody ankle issue as the Han figure, where there's a gap in the ankle joint, and so you get this ridiculous looking fold at the back there, which is disappointing. I guess with the Han Solo figure, people have inserted some foam or wrapped it around with little cylinders of plastic and so on to fill that gap, and I might do that with the Han Solo figure. I haven't as yet, but I'm not sure if I'll bother doing it with the Vader figure. I guess I probably won't be posing it too dynamically, and leaving it like that hopefully won't degrade this sort of a pleather type material. But that is disappointing. But the material itself is that sort of fake leather material that does sort of have a better look than the Sideshow figure. So I do like the boots in that regard, and the Shin Guards are removable. So as you'll see, there is that bit of Velcro at the front there, and you just take the Shin Guard and just pose it up and place it as you want. Now they're not identical on both legs. They're actually they're symmetrical but not identical. So I'm not sure if they're meant to be with this on the right and this on the left, or reversed. So I'll probably have to go back to some photos to double check. But if you do know, because this side here seems to protrude a bit more than this side, if you can sort of see that on the camera, so they're not identical Shin Guards. So if you can advise me as to whether or not it should be like this or like this, that'd be great if you could do that in the comments below. But that is pretty much it on the suit. What else can I say about it? There, you can feel the sort of padding around the torso area. Now, I'm not sure if that's just to make him a bit fatter, or actually just to give a bit of room for the sound effects to come through. There is this sort of a flexible material here and here, which you really do need just to be able to get the damn thing off. This was quite a bit harder to undress than the Sideshow figure, which pretty much had that sort of Velcro all the way down, and this material was a bit more stretchy and the body not so hard to articulate, in that the shoulders could move forward, as I was showing later before. So this was easier to undress, but to finish up on the body, I do think the Hot Toys version is does have a better look to it, despite him being a bit of a fat man. Now, as I was saying before, the Hot Toys figure here does have this additional vest that goes over the chest area. Now, the Hot Toys instructions do not tell you that you need to remove this to access the battery compartment. It essentially just says to pull those down, and this is over top, and you just essentially open it up like so. I found it almost impossible to access the battery compartment without removing this, so I would definitely remove it. It's pretty much the same material as the rest of the bodysuit, and you get a feel for what it looks like on the inside. It's this sort of white material, and all the outer components, the black parts, looks to be just glued on there and then sewed on around the edges. So interesting that it's that sort of double layered effect, but overall it's not a bad design. So I'll put this back on the body and give you guys a look at how fat he looks with it on. Alright, so here he is with the vest on. You just have to pretty much go slow with the arms sort of pulled forward a little bit, and just inch side by side on both arms to reach it around, and then just pull it up as far as you can over the shoulders, and then you just Velcro it up the middle here. So overall it doesn't look too bad, but as you can see, it does make his torso look like he's packed on a few pounds since Return of the Sith. So it's not too bad, I guess, and in side by side with the Sideshow here, even, you know, you try and compare it like this, it doesn't look like it's too much fatter than the Sideshow, but I guess maybe it's the height of the Sideshow one that doesn't make it look like he's overly fat. And I guess the thighs probably look quite a bit thicker as well, and it's probably the suit here in the Sideshow where it has this very large gap in the waist area that makes it more accentuate how thin it might look in comparison to the Hot Toys. I mean, the Hot Toys figure, you can feel the gap there, but because the way the suit is tailored and fitted nicer, you just don't get that effect. So it's probably movie accurate, and I have heard that the vest itself as a separate piece to the costume is movie accurate, but it probably didn't need that, to be honest, and it adds just another layer to the suit, where if you're trying to access that bloody battery switch, it's next to impossible, and you would need to sort of at least take this apart and try and feed your finger in there to try and push that button, because what I've heard, which I'm not going to bother trying out, is that there's a 15-minute cutoff to the battery, and once you have, if you don't have any activity in that 15 minutes, you pretty much have to reset all the switches, which is an absolute pain in the ass. So I've got no idea why Hot Toys designed it like that. It probably would have been better if the sound effects were just in the damn bass, because that's at least, you know, if you have people over, you can just press a button on the bass somewhere and it just makes those sounds. But I'm never going to use those anyway. So on the body itself, I would say again the Hot Toys is probably better, but just has that extra sort of girth to it. Alright, so this is the part where we pretty much start putting the figures back together. So I'll go through each of the components, starting with the helmets here. So I'll just grab them and give you guys a comparison of the helmets. So I'll just zoom in a little bit. So you'll see the Sideshow again is on the left here, and the Hot Toys on the right. And you can pretty much see the overall dimensions of the Hot Toys figure are probably much more accurate to the movie. And I guess I do like the fact that this whole sort of crown section is a lot longer and wider than the Sideshow. I always felt the Sideshow perhaps didn't have the sort of width to it and the length at the back, so it looked a little bit short. And I do like some of the details in the Hot Toys version, particularly in some of the paint application. I've just gone by some of the photos and so on in the Star Wars making of books. You know, these sort of streaks that you see on the mouthpiece there, and on the side, and you know, some of this weathering that you see is quite accurate, I think. So also I've seen some variants on the those making of books where one side is silver tipped and the other side is more darker with just a bit of weathering, I think, on the tip there. So again, their attention to detail there is pretty good. And there you see me in the reflection there. One of the things, the sort of red translucent nature of the eyes doesn't really come through all that much. There is a hint of it as you get closer and shine some light in there, but other than that you don't really see all that much of it. The Sideshow one definitely doesn't have that either for this Empire Strikes Back version. But overall, the detailing on both is pretty good. You know, you do see the little dents in the cheek areas there, like you see here. You know, some people have said, "Oh, you know, shit, is that a QC defect or something like that?" No, that again, that's pretty accurate from what I've seen. And I do like the fact that the Hot Toys version is this sort of matte finish. Just excuse my fingerprints all over this thing, but it does have a matte finish where the Sideshow version has a much more glossy finish. I had to go through a couple of these, I guess due to that glossy nature, because the first couple that I got, the one that I got straight out of the box, due to the packaging, had scratches pretty much everywhere. So I just couldn't handle that, so I asked them for a replacement, and they sent out a replacement. And then that one had scuff marks all along the back here, and I think even a chip at the front here. So I got another replacement, and finally it was one that was worth keeping. So I have what I did do on this one though was I added a bit of car wax and I just buffed it off, and it does come up with a very nice sheen to it. But I guess on the Hot Toys version, it is this matte finish, which overall it doesn't have that shiny effect, but it just looks really nice. I guess the other difference in the mouth guard area, I guess they're very similar, but I guess the Hot Toys version you can sort of make out the grill, the silverness underneath these vertical grills a bit better, whereas in the Sideshow you can't really make that out. And it's interesting to note that the grill at the back here on the bottom is so much bigger on the Sideshow version. I only just noticed that. I'm not sure which one's more accurate or not, but overall, I guess from the movie, I do prefer the Hot Toys helmet. And I guess one thing I don't like about the Hot Toys helmet is the use of this clear joint. I've had issues in the past with my Robocop with that cracking, and I had to get a replacement there. These clear plastic joints are just terrible. I don't know why they just don't go with normal plastic. That seems to be less brittle. The Sideshow version, I guess they went the extra mile with this sort of fake head in there, which it was a nice touch, to be honest. So you can sort of make it out in some poses, but it is sort of accurate to that Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi look. So that's a nice little additional feature that they've got there. But on the whole, I would say I prefer the Hot Toys version for the helmet. Alright, the next bit I'll show is the chest armor, or the shoulder armor. This is the Sideshow version here, which I actually do prefer the Sideshow version over the Hot Toys. Now the Sideshow version again does have that glossy paint app to it. The Hot Toys is pretty glossy, but not so, I guess, with that sort of clear coat on it. The thing I do like better on the Sideshow is that these are essentially Velcro, and this is just a fabric sort of extension. So there's no sort of risk of that ever snapping off or anything. It's just Velcroed on, and it is quite flexible and movable with the articulation. With the Hot Toys, they've done something similar, I guess, with what they have on their Stormtroopers and so on, and it's just this sort of glued on soft vinyl or plastic. So there is a bit of play to it, but not much at all. So I would be very reluctant to sort of try and bend that and overstretch that material. So to me, that would hinder the articulation quite a bit. I mean, if you're trying to extend the arms out to the side like I showed the body could, I'm not sure where this shoulder arm is going to go. The shoulder arm is probably just going to bend upwards like so. I mean, it's you can feel the sort of tension there and bending of that joint, of that seam, and I wouldn't want to push that too far, to be quite honest. So I think the way Sideshow have done it here, I prefer quite a bit more. I guess the shoulder armor, I'm not sure which one's more accurate, I guess. I'd probably side with Hot Toys on accuracy if I had the choice. So the silver here and the black as opposed to the complete black. So I don't know if he bothered changing this in Empire Strikes Back to all black shoulder armor. Maybe both are movie accurate, I don't know. But overall, the design of this I do prefer. The other feature of this that I do prefer is this little, you'll notice that there's a little hook here, and that little hook is so that the cape, the chain around the cape can actually hook onto this and keep it sort of down and not riding up underneath the helmet. Now the Hot Toys version does not have that, and so a lot of the cases and the photos that I've seen, the helmet is on and the cape has sort of ridden up underneath the helmet, which doesn't look very good to me. And I guess this Sideshow version solves that by having this tiny little hook. And when you have that hook there, because it looks like one of the little chains in the cape chain, you don't even really notice that it's there. So I do prefer this a lot more to the Hot Toys. Alright, the next part we'll go through is the chest box, and this is the Sideshow version here. And you'll see that the chest box on the Sideshow version has electronics that integrate in with the belt, which makes perfect sense to me. And so when you sort of switch on the light up effects, both the belt and the chest box come on. But with the Hot Toys, they didn't do any light up features on the chest box, but they did do it on the belt. So that seems a little bit pointless to me, having it just on the belt. The overall design is very similar, and by all accounts, from the photos I've seen, both are pretty movie accurate from their respective movies. So you'll see the bit of green there, and the different sort of buttons at the bottom, whereas the Sideshow has the blue and different colors, and etc. So by all accounts, that looks pretty accurate, and size wise they are pretty much the same size, with the Sideshow maybe slightly larger. But overall, I'm not going to get out my micrometer and check which one is exactly accurate, but I'm sure there will be others out there who might do that. But I do prefer the electronics. And so the strap here, oh, and I also like the use of these little clips on the Sideshow version, which are just like mini little buckles. So essentially you just clip it in like this. I think the Hot Toys version is just all Velcro, which has its pros as well, in just the ease of being able to pull them on and off. But essentially this little connector feeds in through the inner tunic. There is a hole at the back of the inner tunic, and you feed that through and then connect it in with the belt. So when you turn on all the features there, all the light up features come on. So I'll show you guys a bit of that when I get to that. But that's essentially both of these. Which one I prefer? I guess I would probably say the Sideshow version, just for the electronics, I guess. Alright, so here is the Sideshow belt. So this belt buckle here is not detachable, but you do detach it from the rear via this bit of Velcro, and you'll see all the electronics there, and this connector is what connects to the chest box electronics. So essentially you have one battery pack at the back, and you flip that switch and all the lights come on at once. So I do like the way that they've designed that particular feature. Accuracy wise, it looks pretty good, and the material looks pretty good, and with the big fat battery pack, because it's sort of at the back, hidden behind the belt and all the capes and so on. You don't even really notice that it's there. The Hot Toys version, which I've got right here, sorry, is more like I guess an accurate belt, in that it's got the clip at the front of the buckle there, and you put it through that little slot, like so. And the battery packs for both the boxes are essentially inbuilt within each box, so you pretty much just have to take it off of the belt itself and access the battery compartment. I did say that I was going to try and do it before, but honestly I'm not even going to bother. I looked at some of the other earlier reviews, and I think only the red light or a couple of the other lights turn on, and it's barely noticeable, so I'm not even going to bother going through and taking those off and flicking those little switches there. I'm just going to assume that they work. But overall, there's not much weathering on the Hot Toys version on these little boxes. I guess with the Sideshow version you do get a few of these little metallic scuffs and so on that add a bit to it. The silver again on the Sideshow could have been a bit more refined. It does look a little bit thick and not as nice as the Hot Toys version here. But overall, the way that they've designed this and integrated it in with the chest box, I would have to say I prefer the Sideshow version over the Hot Toys. Alright, so here are the crotch pieces. This one is the Sideshow, and again it's pretty much just a bit of Velcro around the back, and I think I'm probably going to have to go back through and figure out once I try and hook everything up again how it goes, but I'm not sure if this feeds through some of the other armor pieces or anything like that they've got, or you just pretty much tighten it around his waist. I guess the good thing about this, there's no strap down here, and you pretty much can adjust it up and down as you want. The Hot Toys version here has this strap at the bottom here, which again I'm not sure if that's probably more movie accurate to the costume and so on, but what that does is restrict where you can actually put it. And one of the, I guess the key complaints about this particular figure so far is that the crotch piece out of the box is too low, and that sort of accentuates the sort of chubbiness and stockiness of the figure. So many collectors, instead of having it strapped around like so and connected through, have actually not even bothered connecting up this strap, and what they've done, I think, is somehow taken this out and just fed this particular piece and just left it sort of sitting inside here. You'll see the Velcro connects to the Velcro on the front of the crotch of the figure, and without this piece, or this piece just sort of sliding up in there, you can adjust it higher up the torso. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing, because out of the box, the gap between this, the chest box and the armor, there's too much of a gap and it just looks a little bit silly, so I'll probably end up just feeding this up through and under the vest as well. So material wise, this more feels like a very thin sort of plasticky type material that doesn't has a bit of a matte finish. This one is a thicker sort of a pliable material, I guess. It's like much thicker rubber. The look itself, I don't know. The Hot Toys version is definitely larger, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion either way on either of these crotch pieces. I guess I do prefer the design on this one, where it's more adjustable up or down. But once we get it on the figure, I'll probably have a few more thoughts on which one I prefer. Alright, so the inner tunic. This is the inner tunic of the Sideshow figure, and as you can see right there, there is the hole that you feed the electronics through for the chest piece. So it's pretty subtle, and of course with the cape over the back, you're not going to really notice it at all anyway. And I'll just feed my finger through there to give it a look. The tailoring on the Sideshow figure I always thought was pretty nice. And I do like the pleats here that sort of give it that nice folded look as these go over the shoulder. No, Empire Strikes Back actually goes under the shoulder. So as they go under the shoulder armor, the sort of pleats follow through that sort of aesthetic. And the material is quite nice. I guess similar to the Cape, the Sideshow version pretty much had some issues with the tailoring and the finishing at the hem here, where there were cases, I think, of a lot of tearing and just not a very nice clean finish. Luckily on mine, it's pretty good, but the material, it's a very nice fine soft material, and it does drape fairly well. There's no sort of wire or anything in there, so it just sort of sits quite nicely. But the Hot Toys version here, if I just feed my finger through, I guess it's very similar in that the outer material feels very similar and looks very similar, but the inside, it's like a double layer similar to the Cape, whereas on the inside here it's a satin type finish. So the tailoring overall is probably nicer on the Hot Toys, and it's finished with a nice sort of hem. And it does have this wire that runs all the way up, it seems. So there is a wire that you can sort of pose it to flare out if you wanted to, or pose it to fold in. I don't necessarily think the wire is really needed. I mean, it's just the inner tunic. I would have thought a wire in the outer cape would have been better or made more sense, but they've put it in. There's a bit of the pleats there as well, but I do think the pleats on the Sideshow version are done nicer. These ones look a bit more stitched, and the Sideshow version just looks a little bit, if you see that there, just looks nicer. But overall, both are really good tunics. Both have their pros and cons. The tailoring overall on the Hot Toys with the double layer and the satin finish on the inside is probably nicer, but I guess with the wire and the lack of wire on the Sideshow, it's probably just easier to futz around with and pose. So I don't know, both have their pros and cons, and they both look pretty good on the figure. So I guess I'll get onto the Cape next. Alright, so this is the Sideshow Cape. It's got the sort of nice padding around the neck area there, and it's got I think it's just plastic, and you can sort of take it off those hooks. So you see these little hooks through there on either side, and you just hook that through, and then the center one at the bottom there can then hook through this sort of centerpiece in there that I did do before, but I'll futz around with that in a second. But that essentially is how you do the cape and the chain on the Sideshow version, and I do prefer that design over the Hot Toys version. The cape itself, when we first got this, I was really impressed with the material and how soft it feels, and it is a single layer on the Sideshow version. So it's a single layer of very fine material, and again you can sort of see some of the finishing there. Mine's pretty good, but there was a lot of fraying in some of the photos I did see of other collectors. And so the cape material, it drapes very nicely. It's got a good bit of weight to it, but it is fairly light as well, so I do like that it's light but does have a natural drape to it, as you can see there. The Hot Toys version is vastly different in that it is much heavier. If you just pick it up, you can feel the definite weight in the cape, and the weight I think comes from, again, it is a double material, and it's not really a satin finish on the inside like the inner tunic. It's more of a, I can't really explain it. I think it's both the same on both sides, but it's a very fine soft material, and the only sort of satin sort of finish is on the hem here. But overall, the tailoring on this again is very, very nice, and the material itself has a beautiful sort of heavy weight and feel to it. So I guess, again, it's probably overdone on Hot Toys' part. It doesn't need this sort of weight to have that sort of natural drape to it. The Sideshow version, with its lighter feel, does have a natural drape, but I guess with that quality, you can't complain about having too much quality in a figure. What I was saying before, that I do prefer the Sideshow version, is this neck area. So this neck area on the Hot Toys, there's a bit of elastic here that goes over the neck joint, and it is padded like the Sideshow, but it does have this elastic, and then this chain is pretty much just sewn on. So you'll see there's no sort of metal clip there or anything. So again, that's something I prefer on the Sideshow version. I'm not sure why they couldn't design both with the best features of both. You know, have this sort of weight on the cape, but then have the clips and so on where you can adjust it and put it nicer over the figure. So again, the material wise, I'll probably have to say the Hot Toys I prefer, but this whole sort of neck chain area and neck design, I prefer the Sideshow. Alright, so I think that's pretty much all the parts that I've gone through. So it is going to probably take me another hour or so to figure out how the hell I'm going to put all of these things back together again and have them look fairly decent. So I'll do that now and give you guys a final look at the two figures fully set up again. Alright, so it pretty much took me a couple of hours to finally put together both figures again and futz them to a point where I'm at least mostly happy with them. So there's the Sideshow on the left here and Hot Toys on the right. So as you can see, overall they're very similar, but I do prefer the Hot Toys overall. The helmet, the texture of the undersuit, and so on, I think is overall more accurate and probably, or to my eyes at least, just looks slightly better than the Sideshow version. And with the gloves hidden, you don't really notice them all too much. And I guess with the Sideshow figure with the gloves like this, you can have that sort of hands-on belt look a little bit better with the all-in-one gloves. It was a little bit more difficult to put together the Hot Toys version with all the Velcro and just trying to futz everything around. It did take a little bit longer. The Sideshow version doesn't take that long to get looking fairly right. I think the most time I spent was actually just trying to articulate the arms and bend them so at least I could get the arms as close as possible to the body. I still probably need to try and futz around a bit more so the shoulders don't look like they're ballooning out too far. He did have his arms sort of fairly close to himself, but it's just how far I can bend and rotate those shoulders back as well. So other than that, with the mods that I did do for these the Hot Toys, I did not use the strap, so I've shoved the strap up through the vest as well, and then adjusted that up, and so it really has closed the gap between the chest box and the belt and the crotch piece. So I think that looks a lot better, and it does sort of give him the appearance that his legs are a little bit longer than they were. The tunic, I don't mind the fact that it's got the wire there. It is I guess a bit of a pain to try and futz around with it and pose it so that it sort of lies flat. I did just hold everything in place and then just pull gently on the tunic, and it pretty much just pulls it down, and then you can just pose it on the bottom here however you see fit. The cape itself, I did have a bit of problem with the chain and putting the head back on. Luckily I could find a place to place my hands to sort of really hold the body tight and push the head back on. The Sideshow one wasn't that difficult, and as before, I do like that it's got the little hook at the front here that you can barely notice anyway. So depending on how you pose the Hot Toys head, the cape might start riding up underneath the neck piece there, but I've pretty much bent his head down so that the bottom edge catches on that chain. But that's pretty much it. Overall, two pretty fantastic figures in my book. If you've got either, I think you'd be pretty happy with either Vader. Depending on, I guess, you know, this one also has the extra accessories for the unmasked head and the sawn off arm if you had the exclusive version, which is a pretty good display option as well. But I guess if you've got Obi-Wan from Hot Toys, then I think you pretty much want to go with the A New Hope Darth Vader as well, both for scale and I guess just the completeness in the line. I'm happy with both, but I guess overall I'm probably leaning towards the Hot Toys as the better figure. So I hope you guys like that breakdown of each of the figures. It's been a lot of fun for me. I normally don't do that with any of my figures, and and I've probably learnt a bit more about the bodies and how all of these things sort of hang together. So it's been fun for me, and hopefully it's been useful information for you guys to decide which ones you want, and even if you want both, what the differences are. So hopefully you can click that subscribe button and stay tuned for the upcoming reviews. I do have the Sideshow 3PO coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I'll probably be doing a pretty detailed comparison of that and the old Bandai Tamashii 3PO as well. So hopefully you can stick around for that comparison. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.